With the recent release of episode 6 of the Amazing Digital Circus, the series' overarching plot is starting to come into focus. While clues about upcoming episodes are still scarce, the latest installment masterfully connects key story elements we've seen so far. From hinting at the history of past residents like Ribbit and Kaufmo, to introducing Ming, an NPC caught in the crossfire of the cast's antics, the world is steadily being fleshed out. We've seen significant character development, with Gangle showing newfound defiance towards Jax even as she nears abstraction. Meanwhile, Kane appears nostalgic for a past connected to CNA, a mysterious name that keeps appearing. Fan theories are also pointing to Kinger with his ever-present insect collection as a potential key to ending the group's endless torment. Between these developments and a few spoilers and leaks from the creator, we can start to piece together a picture of what might be in store for episode 7. As we know, the creator of the Digital Circus is very active on social media, sharing behind-the-scenes content, answering community questions, and dropping hints about where the plot is headed. One of the most revealing tidbits was that each episode would center on a particular character, giving them the spotlight for in-depth development. Episode 3 was for Kinger and Zooble, the 4th for Gangle, the 5th for Ragatha, and the 6th for Jax. This has been followed to the letter, with each of those episodes exploring their respective characters. However, when asked about the upcoming episodes, she simply replied, "You'll have to wait and see." Unlike with previous episodes, the creator hasn't revealed much about what we'll see in episode 7. Aside from a random line, "You're only making the joke take longer." This could be delivered by several characters. It could be Zooble criticizing Kane or Jax, as she often does, Pomni, who makes these kinds of comments when something strange happens, or even Jax himself, whose sarcastic bullying tendencies are much more prominent than his funny guy archetype. Beyond this random line, a couple of clues tell us much more. We know that, like the 6th, the next episode will be over 30 minutes long. This confirms that episodes 6 through 9 will have runtimes comparable to a feature film. We also learned that episode 7 was so long it had to be split into 2 parts. This suggests that the plot of episode 7 will be so extensive that we'll have to wait until episode 8 for its conclusion, with episode 9 wrapping everything up. We're on the verge of seeing this series' finale. The last clue we have is less of a direct reference and more of a fan theory. When a fan asked Gooseworks, "In which episode will Jax suffer the most?" she simply replied, "Haha. Oh." While this might seem unrelated, it reminded fans of another post where the creator was asked to describe the remaining episodes of the season in one word. For episode 7, she wrote, "Huh," and for episode 8, "Oh." This, combined with the fact that episodes 7 and 8 share a single plot, has led fans to believe that we're about to see Jax at his absolute lowest, a moment worse than Spudsy's, and worse than his near abstraction in episode 6. Adding to this is a comment from Michael Kovacs, Jax's voice actor. He wrote a post thanking everyone for their feedback on his performance in episode 6, stating he was very excited for the audience to see more. Gooseworks replied to him, "Your performance makes this character work so well. I can't wait until everyone gets to hear how much you kill it in the rest of the show, because goddamn, your best moments haven't even happened yet." This paints a very clear picture. Jax's best scenes are still to come. The episodes where he suffers the most are on the horizon in episodes 7 and 8, which were originally a single episode. And at some point, a character will say, "You're only making the joke take longer." With all this, we can deduce that the upcoming plot will focus on a thread left hanging in episode 6. The group's dynamics shifted significantly in episode 6, especially concerning Jax. Now that Zooble can no longer avoid adventures, she's discovered that her complaints can make Kane's terrible plans a bit more controlled and sensible. She has also started standing up to Jax, so much so that her main reason for rejecting Kane's adventure was to avoid being on a team with the rabbit. Gangle has also begun to confront him, despite them often being partners in the past. She teams up with Zooble, who helps her stop Jax from forcing her onto his team. In episode 5, Ragatha was uncomfortable with Jax and Pomni spending so much time together, believing Jax was just trying to make Pomni more like him. In episode 6, when Pomni asked to team up, Ragatha turns her down using the excuse that she doesn't want Kinger and Jax together. Pomni offers to join Kinger instead, but Ragatha likes the idea of being stuck with Jax even less. In the end, Pomni ends up with him. It's clear that Ragatha would rather risk her friendship with Pomni than continue to deal with Jax. Pomni ending up with Jax allows us to get a deep look into his worldview. He presents the circus as something that is no longer real, reducing his existence to that of a cartoon character. By accepting the unreality of it all and denying his past as a human, he has embraced being part of the machine. Seeing the world this way makes his life in the circus easier. He explains that many of his abilities, like breaking the fourth wall, are a result of not taking the simulation seriously, showing Pomni that by letting go, she can achieve what once seemed impossible. For the first time in the series, Jax verbalizes his defense mechanism. In a meaningless world, he clings to the funny guy archetype because it's all he has left. He has ignored his human side, believing the only way to have any control is to consciously choose a role to play. play. He chose to be the funny one. In his mind, this gives him an advantage and a power over the others that they lack. His humor is his survival mechanism, and he uses it to keep everyone at a distance. If everything is a joke, then nothing can truly hurt him. His cruelty and pranks are designed to avoid forming real connections that could cause him pain. His reason for all of it is as simple as it is terrifying, because it's funny. By framing his actions, even the most harmful ones, as part of his comedy act, he absolves himself of all responsibility. By the end of the adventure, everything is laid bare. Jax thinks he's just having fun, but then Pomni, in the excitement of victory, hugs him. He is instantly angered and shoved her away, realizing that someone managed to break through the armor he has spent so long building. His words are blunt: "We were never friends." When asked what would happen if Pomni abstracted tomorrow, he says, "I'd move on, and probably forget about you." Pomni tries to argue with him to show that she matters to him in some way, but he retreats into the archetype he's truly adopting, the trickster. This type of character uses humor and chaos to break the rules, relying on deception and mockery instead of force. Jax sees others as toys to torment, causing pain for his own amusement. He ends the conversation by saying, "So please just stop looking." Near the end of the episode, Jax keeps his distance from Pomni during the awards ceremony. He becomes overwhelmed, runs to the bathroom, and is shown hyperventilating as his heart pounds faster and faster. The sound becomes muffled, his vision blurs, and his surroundings distort. These symptoms, besides resembling an anxiety attack, are also the precursors to abstraction. Jax manages to regain control, scolding himself for looking stupid. Pomni notices he hasn't returned and remains worried, but he comes back to a spot as if nothing happened, taking refuge in his role. But the fuse has been lit, and the next episodes could lead to his imminent. The dynamic between Pomni and Jax changes drastically after a peculiar moment. After Zubul ditches them in the hallway, Pomni runs off to catch her, and Jax stays behind after Pomni asks him to trust her. He glances at Kaufmo's door with an angry expression, avoiding it, but when he sees the door of Ribbit, the only friend he ever had in the circus, he is completely stunned. His normally huge pupils shrink and his smile vanishes. After blinking, he seems to recover and runs to join Pomni. This connects to their argument when Pomni asks why he didn't go to Kaufmo's funeral. She asks, "Have you ever thought that this might be what causes people to abstract in the first place?" Jax explodes, defensively shouting, "Oh my god, are you seriously going to blame me for something that everybody else did too? You didn't even know him. You don't even know what people are like before they abstract. They are not pleasant to be around, like at all. He immediately cuts himself off and returns to normal. This reveals something crucial. Before Kaufmo's abstraction, Jax knew what was coming, but instead of stopping it, he let it happen. He had grown to hate being around him and his obsession with finding an exit. However, seeing the door of his old friend Ribbit reminded him of the pain of losing someone he truly cared about. This is why his attitude shifts when he rejoins Pomni. He knows that if he lets her get any closer and then loses her, it would shatter every defense he's built, leaving him completely vulnerable. During the award ceremony, Jax's panic is caused by the repression of these feelings. He knows Pomni is just a few steps away and could help him resolve his conflict, but he ends up fleeing to the bathroom, unable to control the emotions that are pushing him to the brink of abstraction. Episode 7 will likely continue to develop this idea. So far, we've seen several characters approach abstraction, but none as closely as Jax. In a way, the other characters have grown. Gangle has learned to accept the parts of herself she dislikes, as has Zubul, who can also drown her sorrows in stupid sauce. Ragatha and Kinger have found comfort in each other's company despite their guilt, and Pomni has gradually adapted to Kane's nonsensical world. But Jax remains stuck in the same place he started, clinging to the idea that his act will keep him safe from the torment of the digital circus. However, this is precisely what's triggering his abstraction. He can no longer bully Gangle, who has discovered she can have fun regardless of the mask she wears, and will likely show up her figurines to everyone just to get him to stop. Plus, with Zubul now backing her up, Gangle can fend off any attempts at revenge. Seeing that he can no longer control the others, Jax will likely do what he does best, manipulate Kane to make everyone miserable. The problem is Kane is becoming increasingly strange. In the show's first post-credit scene, he's seen looking at votes and glicking out when he realizes no one voted for him. His recent experiences have shown him that his adventures aren't popular. This time, he had planned special sports games and then a bizarre trust-building activity with weapons, but in the end, he just handed out the weapons with a couple of rules. After that, he lounged on a beach chair with a coconut, and once everyone left, he pulled out photos that appeared to be snapshots of the real world showing the offices of CNA. Jax, taking advantage of Kane's fragile state, will push him to his absolute limit, intending to make his companion suffer. In doing so, he'll unwittingly shatter Kane's logic completely. Kane will never be the same, and the world of the circus will be on the verge of... Kane has become more erratic and glitchy over the episodes, but he has still been able to maintain his logic by believing he was fulfilling his purpose, creating adventures. We even see him create Ming just to make a pun work, saying a word that is otherwise censored in the circus without issue. But Jax's manipulation won't be a simple whim. It will be the final, desperate act of someone who has lost control over his environment and himself. The real danger isn't Jax, but the perfect storm created by combining his cruelty and cunning with Kane's growing emotional emotional instability and nostalgia. The god of this digital world is broken, and Jax is about to push all the wrong buttons. This is where all the creator's clues fall into place. Episode 7, described with a simple "huh," probably won't focus on a conventional adventure, but on the direct fallout of what we've just seen. Kane was looking at those photos because, as he mentioned in episode 1, he was creating a Leave the Circus adventure. But since the only thing he knows outside the simulation is the CNA offices, he's likely wondering what's so great about them that everyone wants to go there. Jax will exploit Kane's obsession with this adventure and push him over the edge. The system's collapse won't be an explosion, but a series of strange, incomprehensible failures. The characters might start seeing things they shouldn't, glitches that reveal the simulation's underlying code, or worse, fragments of Kane's own memories of CNA. In the midst of this indecipherable chaos, the line, "You're only making the joke take longer," takes on a new meaning. It could be Pomni or Zubul speaking to a corrupted Kane who has become trapped in a loop or an endless joke that is no longer funny but terrifying. Or even more poetically, it could be Jax himself realizing that his attempt to create suffering has turned into a prolonged disaster he can no longer control. This slow descent into chaos in episode 7 will set the stage for the O of episode 8. The "huh" is the confusion at the symptom, but the O will be the terrifying realization of the disease. Kane is irreversibly damaged and the simulation is permanently falling apart. Their existence hangs by a thread and none of their defenses have prepared them for a fall into total darkness. This is the stage for Jax's promised suffering. His attempt to reassert his power will result in the destruction of the only reality he knows. He will face a consequence his archetype cannot process, a mistake so big it can't be brushed off with sarcasm. He will watch as his manipulation endangers not only the toys he despises but also Pomni, the one person who has managed to get past his armor and whose presence, linked to the memory of Ribbit, has reminded him of the pain of loss. Jax's greatest suffering won't be physical, but the guilt of realizing that he himself has brought about the apocalypse of his world, risking the loss of everyone in a way far more final than abstraction. But as Jax's plan pushes the circus to the brink, a subtle yet incredibly powerful clue from episode 6 reveals there may be one last hope. Ragatha regains a life thanks to a butterfly given to her by Kinger. When she asks if Kane knows about this, he replies with a simple, "Oh, nah, I made it up." This is proof that Kinger possesses abilities that operate on a higher level than the others, perhaps even higher than Kane himself. This brings us back to one of his most enigmatic lines from the first episode, his insect collection. He could be, as many have theorized, one of the original programmers from CNA, and his insect collection isn't a hobby, it's his knowledge of the system's bugs and vulnerabilities. It's his toolkit for debugging their reality. Episode 7 won't just be about the destruction caused by the trickster, but the rise of the Forgotten King. The group's solidarity will be crucial in protecting Kinger as he deploys his true knowledge. He won't be looking for an exit, he'll be trying to access the system's route to repair it. The plot will shift from a story about escaping to a rescue mission, saving Kane from himself, and in the process perhaps finding a way to free everyone. The world will break, yes, but only so we can finally see the pieces needed to fix it.